Hello everyone, I'm your host Saket Bansal back again with another episode of Project Manager Interview Mastery Series. And today we are exploring conflict management. Many times when you go for an interview, you get a question and the interviewer may ask, tell me about a situation where you had a significant conflict in your team and how you navigated that particular situation. So the overall, the leadership role involves working with people and conflicts are unavoidable because people have difference of opinion. So this kind of question is most likely to come for any leadership role, be it a team leader, scrum master, or a project manager. So how should we answer this particular question? In this video, I am talking about generic guidance about selecting the conflict, and I will give you specific 6 examples from my experience, which can help you probably start finding the appropriate conflicts which you may want to discuss in your real interview. You don't have to copy paste my example, but these examples are given to build the case so that you can find out your own context. Because in an interview, person may ask further, second level, third level question also based on your answer. So be clear about your own case rather than copying it from somewhere else. So let's get started and first talk about the principal thinking before you start talking about a particular conflict. The first thing you need to keep in mind, my conflict example should be of such a nature which clearly shows that these kind of conflicts were unavoidable. These conflicts were not coming because of poor management or because of poor project management. So say if you bring a conflict saying people are not clear about who is doing on what work and that was creating a lot of conflict. It clearly shows that you have not created right working agreement, you have not created right understanding of roles and responsibility, and that's why these kind of conflicts is coming. So the example you are going to share in the conflict answer, it also shows the state of your project. Yes, such kind of conflicts will come when your team is in a forming stage, in the early stage of your project. But as you clarify the team working agreement, as you take care of frequent meetings, you ensure the status or the information is available at a transparent level, you build trust amongst the people, these kind of unnecessary conflicts will get disappeared. So I need to bring an example which shows it was not something coming because of poor management of the project, poor management of the communication. So that's an important point. The second point, as a thinking, we need to keep in mind, you don't try to be the problem solver or the hero of this problem. You try to communicate that I always focus on building the skills in the team so that they can take care of conflict. It is not like that I have to be the navigator and problem solver myself. It is okay to create little bit facilitation and letting the team to resolve their own conflicts. So you need to see your role appropriately. It should not look too much because if you are playing too much role, it also means that your team is not capable, and which also means you are unable to create a team which can take care of themselves. So the team poor performance is a clear reflection of your poor performance. So you need to be also careful about that. The third point is whenever you bring an example of conflict, you show with the help of resolving this conflict, I created better understanding about the project objective. I improved the trust amongst the team member. It helped us in finding the creative solution. And all in all, you create an example which shows this was a great thing to happen to us because thanks to this conflict, we moved better, we moved faster in our project delivery. So bring an example which leads to a positive conflict resolution, and the reason should also be pretty positive. Now, after giving these 3 principles of handling conflict, let's talk about some of the examples of conflict management in a typical project. My example number 1 is coming from communication side. You have a team member who is very proactive, who is working very hard for achieving project objectives. The project is going through critical phase, but you started observing that this team member started communicating with the client directly and many a time make some commitments with the client and the team is not informed about it. And that is creating pressure for the team and a lot of miscommunication is happening and team is not liking this person's behavior. And that is, they come to you, they complain about it, and this person believes the team is not understanding the priority of the client, and that's why he wanted to go one step ahead and resolve the problem rather than waiting for the team to discuss these all issues and understand about it. So someone is becoming too proactive, And that is creating a problem for other team members because they are suffering because of this proactiveness. That was a situation you can describe if you find this familiar from your project. Now, what do you do as a project manager? I need to facilitate a conversation so that we have a revisit on our working agreements. We were following communication protocol, but recently these communication protocols got start skipping. We need to understand why this team member is not following those communication protocol. Maybe this team member is in a hurry, or maybe he wanted to look good in front of clients. That is also possible. Maybe he want to take some favor, some kind of recommendations from the client, and pushing for his performance far more than the other team members' performance. There could be various areas related to it. So I, as a project manager, analyzed that what are the root causes of these behavior. In interview, I prefer you take positive causes rather than go into more complicated causes where the person wanted to get highlighted and take some promotion. You focus on the person was too in hurry to solve the client's problem, and in the whole process, he was missing the communication protocol. So you make the person realize that because of this missing, what all problems we are facing, what kind of miscommunication we are going through, and what kind of rework it is getting generated. So we clarify the amount of trouble we are facing because of this particular behavior. We also communicate to the team members who were complaining about it that this is something is not done intentionally. It started happening because the person started avoiding some of the essential steps which were needed, but unknowingly he started avoiding. So what you did, you brought this issue in front because people were complaining about it, they were not discussing. So you ensured that this get discussed in a common meeting. You can talk about, you can use an example of retrospective also. You brought this issue in front of them because team member were not highlighting it. You as a project manager made them speak. Then you played a facilitator role. You let them explore about it without saying this is a good behavior or that is a good behavior. And you realize that they were reaching to a stage where they wanted to make a working agreement. Then you facilitated revisiting our communication working agreements, and we finalized that, whenever you talk about a particular issue, you need to keep these particular people in the copy. You need to involve and inform about the client conversation to rest of the team so that all of us together can resolve our client issues. So undesired behavior, and the stakeholder, the team members were complaining about it. You made it coming out, facilitated the conversation, and you had a brainstorming. The team themselves resolved it, and this was a happy ending, which created better understanding in the team about communication protocols and help us in achieving better project objectives. Example number 2, unclear communication between a business analyst, stakeholders, and team were creating confusion related to requirements. And when the requirements were not getting met, there was a conflict. The business analyst used to say that these are the things the team member should be implicitly knowing it. The team member used to complain that these are the requirements should be explicitly told to us. And the communication which was happening between business analyst and stakeholder was also having similar issues. The stakeholders were assuming a lot of things because the business analyst was not explicitly communicating back to the stakeholder as well. So you realized that this whole communication gap is happening and creating expectation mismatch, poor deliveries and demonstrations. So you finish something and there were a lot of complaint, and good amount of rework was getting generated, and which was creating dissatisfaction in the team as well because they were doing their best but still not finding the appropriate acceptance from the stakeholders as well as from these business analysts. So requirement communications were becoming confusing because of not explicitly declaring things or not having a common understanding or shared understanding between the team members, business analyst, and the stakeholder. So that was the challenge number 2, which we are discussing here. So what you did as a project manager, if you have something like similar experience, you can bring it up, bring the whole story, talk about your project as well. Yeah, talk about the type of requirement, give an example as well. Some possible things you can do. Create a platform where maybe all parties can talk about the requirement. So rather than this business analyst and the developers or engineers talking one-on-one, we create an environment where business analysts, stakeholders, and developers were talking in the joint format. Having an agreement on how much detailing of the requirement has to be done. what all we can assume implicit and what has to be told explicit. So we had a working agreement about how much detailing we should do for our requirements. That's the second step you can take in order to make this conflict resolve. The third possible step you can take is also creating a better trust and understanding between business analyst and team members, and also requesting the business analyst to give a business overview, the overall overview of the customer problem and the product and solution, so that the implicit knowledge or a tacit knowledge of team also improve. So you help to create a better communication so that both of them are understanding the customer perspective in a better manner. Then you also introduce a mechanism where we can take fast feedback rather than keep working on something and not validating it. You agreed upon a frequent feedback loops. So with the help of open, transparent communication, by way of providing a platform where these parties can discuss things frequently, by way of having a working agreement on how much detailing we should do, by way of having a better implicit understanding of the problem we are solving, you created that environment which resolved these kind of conflict and root of these kind of conflict because they were coming because of misunderstanding. And that helped us in having a better mechanism of dealing with our project, and we started producing better result for our stakeholders. Third example of conflict: feedback, review, approach, creating conflict. This I have seen frequently happening. So say you write some code, you take the code to the another developer for a review, and this person gives you a feedback and you are not in agreement with it. And you as a project manager promote the peer level review, pairing, knowledge sharing, but rather than helping you in improving the quality, this is becoming a source of conflict. What was happening? People have a different programming style. The person who is reviewing it, providing feedback, the person who has coded that particular work was not agreement with that particular feedback, or those feedbacks were not well communicated, well understood by this person. And many a time, the people who were receiving the feedback, they were just saying, these guys just want to criticize, and it is no value in this particular feedback. And this is becoming a hot topic, and people were avoiding code reviews. And because of that, some of the people also started avoiding giving feedback also. They started thinking, if I will give a feedback, person will take differently. So feedbacks also started coming less. So both way the problem was having, the feedback givers also diluting their feedback, the feedback seekers were also avoiding seeking the feedback, and the result of it, the quality was going down, and overall the team environment was also getting impacted because we were creating isolated pocket of knowledge. So that's a situation and that's a conflict which you faced in your project team. How I deal with it? Yeah, possibly. Again, example, and if you can bring some example from your area, that will be great. So you agreed upon a protocol of how to give a feedback. Yeah. And we also had an agreement on some kind of basic coding guidelines or design approaches. When we do something, how should we code it? How should we name the function? How should we follow a particular flow? So first, we created an overall common understanding about how to do coding, how to do variable naming, overall coding guidance. And after that, if we have some difference there, how do we give a feedback back to it? And we also agreed upon, trained the people who are providing feedback, better they provide a reference of our design rule or our code rule and why they believe is this particular piece of code is not in alignment with it. We also had a little soft skill training for the people who provide feedback so that they write the feedback in a manner which is not very definitive manner. They keep it a scope for openness, scope for further communication. So that's the second thing you did. So three things rather, yeah, coding guidelines agreement, feedback quality, a format for feedback, and also training the people who are providing feedback to give the feedback in appropriate manner. The fourth thing you did is creating a group design activity, group reviews activities, where these things are not done too much offline. It's not like I am giving a feedback and you are reading it later. So you created an environment where these kind of feedbacks are done on a live session. Live session means people, all of them were together. So if they have a difference of opinion, they can resolve it. And initially, you can say I was present in those live sessions to ensure that we remain at an appropriate level when we are discussing those feedback. Gradually, you stop attending those live sessions and team was able to manage it. So by having these four ideas, you resolve the conflict which was coming because of code reviews feedback. Now, you may have your own example, better example, but I hope this example also gives you some idea. So 3 examples done. Let's talk about the rest of the 3. Example 4, technical options are not in agreement. This is also a frequent case, and many a time the interviewer may ask this conflict directly to you. There are 2 team members where they have a different technical approaches and they are very rigid about those technical approaches. You may get that, or you can also use it from your experience where people were too much passionate about using a particular technology. So how do you handle it? I personally believe this is an easy conflict to handle, at least from explanation perspective. And it is a very positive conflict also because it shows both the parties care for product. They care for customer solution. Yeah. So I, as a project manager, appreciate their passion, appreciate the investment of their mind and learning they are doing in order to find a better solution for our client. But at the same time, I make sure that they focus on finding solution for client, not finding solution for themselves. There are personal interest might be there. Someone may want to learn a particular technology. Someone may want to have that technology in their profile. All those things might be there. There could be hidden objectives also. But I ensured that we bring all of them to focus on project objective rather than focusing on their own hidden objectives. So as a first thing, I make sure that we identify the criterias and success criteria which were needed for project success rather than directly jumping on technology option A or technology option B. And once we had that particular criteria agreed upon by the respective people, and it is not necessary only to focus on these 2 people. If the 2 people are having discussion related to technical option and there are other 2 people who are not involved, we need to involve them as well. Because it is just not about these 2 people finding the right solution. Others may have a better idea about finding the technical approaches. So I can't avoid my rest of the technical population. So by working with the whole team, we facilitated and figured it out. How do we make this particular design decision? What all the criteria we need to keep in mind in order to focus on project objectives? You make the conversation fact oriented. Once we have these objectives very clearly identified, then we think about alternatives, and we can also open for third alternative rather than only focusing on these 2 alternatives. You can say we apply divergent thinking and we say, is there any other solution alternative also which might be candidate for our discussion? So bring all those solution alternative and all the respective people, not necessarily these 2 people alone, and we evaluated, discussed it. And when we discussed, we also made a ground rule during the discussion that not to focus too much on my emotions, but focus on facts and always pointing to how these particular options are going to help my clients. And by having those discussions, we evaluated the various success criteria and saw maybe we create a multi-criteria decision making where we had success criteria in the row and we created columns of option 1, option 2, option 3, and we put the rank number between 1 to 5 for all these options. We finally came up with the number, we discussed about it, and based on that, based on finding the right solution for our client, we selected the technical option. And you can say this whole way of working created a better understanding about our technical decision making in the whole team. It also helped us in finding a better technological alternative or approaches for serving our customer need. And it also built the trust amongst the people because we welcome the idea and the differences which they can bring on the table, and we can find out the right thing which is needed for our project. So that could be your another example. Another possible conflict which you can explore is some team members or one team member wanted to restrict his working area to his core technology only, whereas as a team, you need a support in other technical areas as well. So it is something like you want to make this team member T-shaped professionals, but this particular team member is sticking to remaining I-shaped professional. And this is creating conflict. The team members are complaining, this guy is not flexible. And this particular person is working with the belief, if I start diluting my profile in other areas, I am going to do injustice to my skills and I may not be respected in the community, in the industry later on. So that's the source of the conflict, and here you have to resolve it. So how you move and motivate someone to be a T-shaped professional and also show a support for the overall team. Multiple possible ways. Here I am sharing a particular idea. You work with the team member and listen to his concern first, the person who want to remain I-shaped professional, and help him in realizing that we are not diluting his skills. We do expect and will take more work in the area where he's specialized in. Yeah. So I create a clear communication that we definitely want to maximize your strength. Yeah. So I make him confident about it, because you realized after listening to his point, he was worried that if he learns something else, you may keep overloading him with that else work only, or the team may keep overloading him with the else work only and not giving him work in his core area. That was his worry. So you resolve that worry and making him clear that all of us wants to make best use of your strength. At the same time, you also showed that for the benefit of the team and for the benefit of his own future career also, in the industry, people are looking for multi-skilled professionals. You don't have to be expert in the other skill area. Yeah, but you need to have some amount of competency so you can support the team as well as you become more employable, pluggable in other agile or other project teams as well. So you also communicated that point. You also resolved the fear, because person was also fearful about not able to perform the work in that area well. So you clarified that we are not expecting a very expert level expertise in that area. We are expecting a support level, average level expertise in that area, so that you can help us in moving forward when needed. So after clarifying the expectation and understanding his fear and having a clarity about how do we work forward, you started getting an agreement on how to work in the other area from this particular person. And then in order to enable him further, so you took him to a proper orientation, you assigned a mentor to him in that particular area where you want him to contribute at some extent. You also arranged a small training for him. And then with the help of shadowing of a mentor and the training, person started behaving at an average level in that area. And that also made this person heavy and well connected in the rest of the team, because this person was also working very isolatedly before. And it also helped him to become a better contributor and better professional in his own area as well. And as a project, we got a benefit of resolving bottlenecks, because we were having situations where we were having more work in that area. Now we have another person who can work in that area at an average level and speed up our overall team performance. So this is how you handled this particular conflict. Conflict example 6. You may have a conflict where communication style or a personality style of few team members were not matching. I personally believe it's a difficult conflict. Yeah, you better avoid it. But in case somebody asks you directly about this conflict, then you probably need to deal with it. So there was a team member who always wanted to be in a limelight. If something happens, he should be the visible problem solver. Whenever client asks something in a meeting, he is the first one to speak about it. Yeah. And many a time he doesn't have information very clearly available, but he try to demonstrate he is the one who has all the information. So someone is becoming front boy and or a front man, and the other team members were not liking it. And that is creating a conflict between this person and rest of the teams. Now, this situation has been brought to you and there is an attention, and it is creating lack of trust and a friction in your project team. So how do you deal with this particular situation? So I personally believe it's a difficult one, because personality conflicts has to be taken care on a continuous basis. You can't fix it in a one go. But yes, you have to do something about it. And I'm sure most of you must have faced these kind of situations partially or fully. And what do? You let the conflict first become visible. You can say, this is the problem. This is what we are facing. This is what we are feeling. Many a time what we do is we don't bring it out. We skip feeling bad about this guy's behavior, but nobody tell him what he is doing and how others are feeling about it. So I, as a project manager, ensured that we had an open conversation about our feelings and the issues which we have about his communication style and his overall being visible kind of nature which he is doing with the clients. So we brought this issue in front of him as well as rest of the team. And based on that, because this person was not even aware of it, he was behaving because of his personality style. And after bringing that awareness, first thing is we created an awareness. Yeah. So when he does this behavior next time, we can easily point it out that you are repeating the same thing which we have made you aware about. So awareness of the behavior was created. The second thing you did is that we had a working agreement made. When should you speak, when you should not speak, in these kind of meetings, until unless we put your name, you don't have to speak. What kind of issues has to be taken care by whom? So we had that working agreement, and initially, before a critical meetings, we want to revisit that, okay, this is how we are going to handle this meeting, especially those meetings where stakeholders were there, to make it clear that who has to play what role. And we are going in this meeting, we make our own small working agreement, our own team small working agreement before going to the meetings, and we ensure that we follow that agreement. After the meeting gets over, if the agreement gets breached, we had a working agreement to bring it out. We can say, don't feel bad about it. If you realize anyone is breaching that particular working agreement, we will bring that into our team conversation. So by doing these activities for few weeks, we ensured that we have a better understanding of how to deal with such kind of issues or conflicts in future. And this person also changing his behavior, started changing his behavior, and it created a better cohesiveness in our team, and we started producing better result. So that could be your another conflict example. Yes, there are many. Why I give these 6 examples? Because sometimes you may get a question where the interviewer may ask you a particular situation out of maybe these 6. Maybe the language is different. So when you are thinking about conflicts, maybe you need to prepare your own list so that you are ready when the question related to conflicts are coming. I personally believe all of us deal with conflict on a daily basis. But when we are facing an interview situation, we should be able to effectively communicate our soft skills, our people handling skills, and we can do it if we do a little bit of preparation in advance. If you are liking our Project Managers Interview Series podcast, please don't forget to subscribe us and do press the bell icon so that you get updated whenever we post a new video.